Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Nick here, one of the co-hosts with The Doors. Today, we talk about logotherapy and finding meaning in your life. And when we first found this topic last week, it blew us away a little bit that we hadn't heard about it. And Victor Frankl is a really interesting dude. It's going to be a really interesting podcast. We're excited to have you here. Thank you very much. And you have a fantastic day. Go be great. Thanks.
Hey guys, Nick here.
What's going on, y'all? Zach here.
We're just two guys trying to make the world a better place.
And welcome to The Doors.
Got this, dude. Get it.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to The Doors. We believe that the people who become successful do it by following their heart and take their time doing it. As always, my name is Zachary Otts, and I'm with my co-host,
Nicholas Sternloff.
And remember, we are The Doors. We are the developers of our own opportunities, reinventing success. And today, guys, we're going to be talking a little bit about logotherapy and going in depth behind that. But first, I know that some of you out there right now and some of you listening are struggling with something. Something's going on, addiction, despair. You know, maybe it's something that you're not in control of. But I want you to know that there is power in that struggle. There's power in that pain. Struggles are going to be something that are required in order for us to survive, in order to make us grow. And in the midst of us being uncomfortable, we can find who we truly are in the pain. And you've got to know right now that there is a greater purpose for you. There is a meaning to your life. And I'm going to let Nicholas dive in with a little bit of the logotherapy right now. But as you go through today, remember, there is a meaning to your life. There is a meaning, a purpose, a passion for what you're supposed to do. So without further ado, I'm going to allow Nicholas to introduce you guys to logotherapy.
First off, hey guys, how you doing today? I hope you guys are doing well. And let's open some doors today. Okay, so have you ever been through a time in your life where you were just thrown into a situation, you weren't controlled by the environment, you had no idea where you're going, and tragedy is leading you forward? Things that you're having to overcome are having to move you forward, whether it be loss of loved ones, whether it be financial crises, whether it be mentality, or even questioning who you are. From my own experience and having to go through emotional trauma and growth through tragedy and environments you're not used to, I found that the best way to learn is in those environments, because you learn so much about what not to do, and you mess up so much that you continue to find drive. You find the meaning behind the suffering that you're going through. And that's what logotherapy is. So what logotherapy is, it was created by Victor Frankl, who was born on March 26, 1905, and he was born in Vienna, Austria. And he basically had the idea that his life was meaningless with everything going on. Why is he special? Why is he even living? Why do we exist? And then he was put in a Nazi internment camp. And he had this idea behind logotherapy, which is humans' goal is to find meaning in their own lives. And whatever that may be, that's what drives us as individuals. So he tested this in these camps, and he found meaning and will to live in this, and continued on his research into a new developmental subset of psychology, which is now logotherapy. It's pretty crazy, man.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
he did many different things. You know, he was a neuroscientist, a psychiatrist, a philosopher, an author. He wrote many books. The Meaning of Life is one. So if you guys haven't read that, that's something that Nicholas and I both recommend. But it's so interesting because he described this as a journey. It's a search for meaning behind your life. And he actually put these in his book that was the central force of motivation for people, is finding that meaning. And Nicholas, so I guess the first question I got to ask, man, is how do we go about finding meaning in our life when it seems like we've gravitated away from a society that lives off of meaning to a human's life, if that makes sense?
I mean, it's wild. I mean, if you look at society, a lot of people, one of the things that I see is people just don't think that they're successful. People get stuck in their lives. People do these things monotonously, including myself. And what this is breaking down to is that Victor Frankl broke down the people that he sees as the two types of people. He sees them as people who have lost faith or meaning and hope in their lives, and people who saw life as a challenge and made that their why. So because of this, people that suffer, people that go through things and find meaning in that suffering, they can overcome that because the suffering ceases to become suffering at the moment that it has meaning. I'm getting through this time so that I can accomplish these goals. I'm taking these tiny steps so that we can move forward and become who I'm supposed to become, whatever that may be. And just not putting as high as standards to everything other than literally just doing, you know?
It's interesting, Nick, because especially in America, you know, we do this thing where we command people or we order people to be happy or successful or feel comfortable. But
wait, real stop right there. Listen to this. I mean, he goes into this as well, is because there's two things you cannot pursue ever. It's happiness and success. You can't pursue either of those things ever. And that's a misconceived idea that I think society has put on us. People who don't understand that is you can't just aim for success. It's a state of being. You have to aim at a greater cause or your purpose or whatever your why is, or you have to find that. And that is how you find happiness and success, happiness in success. If that makes sense. Because you can find, that's another big thing. You can find happiness outside of success as well. You don't have to find happiness just in the success, but to find happiness in success, you have to find your why and you have to pursue it. But you don't have to it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be the ginormous and the grandest scheme of things, but you can do something.
But ultimately, Nick, that's what people think. They think in order to change my life, I have to give this giant leap into the unknown. Guys, most of the time, it's you taking a single step. What do we say all the time, Nick? What is our founding quote?
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, Lao Tzu.
Yes. So don't get in this rat race that we call life and that Victor Frankl refers to as the existential vacuum.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on the existential vacuum.
Hang on. So before we go into that, Nick, can you tell them what the existential vacuum actually is?
All right, I'm opening my notes right now. Got you. All right, so the existential vacuum is the void. It's the phenomenon of the twofold loss. So think about it like this. Humans used to have two things that were really going for them as we were developing as a culture before the 21st century that we're living in now, is they had instincts, our primal instincts as animals, and we've also lost tradition. As human beings, as our population has continued to grow so fast, as technology begins to exemplify X-fold, N-fold, and continuing on, we're losing culture because we're blending so much. So now that we've lost a twofold of those things, which is instinct and tradition, humans cannot help man make choices, find meaning anymore. What we have to do is that means people can't help you find meaning in your own life. Culture can't do it. Your traditions can't do it. Your instincts can't do it all the time. You have to find it within yourself now. And because people stop following these things, when we don't follow these things, basically what happens is man either wishes to do what others do, which is conformism, or he does what other people wish him to do, which is totalitarianism. With people living these kind of lives absent of meaning, these people live in an existential vacuum, which is also known as the mass neurotic triad. And I'll put a link into our description about this. It's basically a Venn diagram with depression, aggression, and addiction. And so Zach, why is that? Why is this powerful with this mass neurotic triad in the sense of aiming for power and pleasure?
So I think it's one of those things where we have to look back about what a human is actually supposed to do. We are made, and our bodies and our mind and our souls are made to adapt. It's made to adapt, to find meaning in our pain and our suffering. But how do we find meaning in the pain and suffering if we're always comfortable? We can't. There are things that are diagnosed in our DNA and that are diagnosed in us as a person that we're supposed to do. And I always tell people, you have to have faith in something more powerful than yourself. And for me, that puts meaning into my life because I'm doing something for the common good. I'm doing something for the greater good. But what you realize is that you get to a point and you get to certain situations where you have no control over. And most of the time, Nick, wouldn't you say those are the situations where we want to change the most, is the situations that we have no control?
Situations that mess with me the most are the ones that I know I can't control because I want them to go a certain way and I don't have control over that predicament at all.
So what's most important about this is there's understanding and there's a lesson to be learned in these situations. But that's what Victor Frankl is trying to put across with people with the meaning of life, is that if somehow you can find some meaning in your pain and suffering, is it actually pain and suffering anymore? Or is it a lesson that you've learned? Is it a skill set that you've gained? Because when we get to a point where we no longer can change who we are, or we can change the situation because it's not in our control anymore, we're challenged to change ourselves. That's the part where people miss. They think the world that happens because of Jane Doe and Susie Q, and it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. It has everything to do with your attitude. It has everything to do with your skill set, and it has everything to do with how you handle a situation. And Frankl had a quote, and I really loved it. He said, if there is meaning in life at all, then there is meaning in pain and suffering. Forces beyond your control can take away everything, absolutely everything. But there's one thing that they cannot take, and that is your ability and your freedom to choose how you react in any given situation.
And that's so important, y'all, because I'll come back to the neurotic triad to let you know more about that too, but it's so important because that exact thing is what Victor Frankl's logotherapy is all about. Stimulus, whatever is happening to you, your environment, that's happening too. And then you have your response. Even if you have to respond a certain way, the gap in between that stimulus, whatever is happening to you, and your response is completely up to you, no matter what the circumstances are.
But let's go back to your triad. What were your three things for your triad, Nick?
Depression, aggression, and addiction.
So what ultimately would lead us to those three? It's not finding meaning in our life. It's turning to man. It's turning to extrinsic values. It's turning to material instead of who we are at the core. It's like an orange. You don't squeeze an orange and get apple juice out of it. No, you get orange. When we squeeze you, what's going to come out? Is it going to be your fear? Is it going to be your courage? Is it going to be your anxiety? Or are you going to
gratefulness?
Yeah. Are you going to be grateful? Are you going to be persistent? Are you going to be resilient? Are you going to be worker in the room? Which is it? Which do you choose?
Y'all, and this is really important because I don't know if you grew up learning in history or whatever about some of the great thinkers back in the day, but these ones coincide with it because it shows the development of man in society today, or at least the way we've been thinking. If you think back to Alfred Adler, who created the pursuit of power, the humans' will to live, will to do is the will to power. They want to conquer, they want to become more powerful, they want to have more power. Then Sigmund Freud came along and he had the pursuit of pleasure, that humans are existing and they mean because they pursue for pleasure. But what our man Victor Frankl comes in and says is that when people fail to find meaning in their lives, they turn to the pursuit of pleasure or the pursuit of power. And finding and meaning in life does not mean finding the ultimate meaning in life. So it's important, even if this is not a known fact, even if this logotherapy isn't completely backed by everyone, I think it has very great ideologies trying to put meaning in your life. So how would you create meaning in your life? How would you, if you don't know what that is, if like for me right now, I spend exotic amount of time making this podcast, doing things with this podcast, doing things to better myself for this. I put exemplary hours in for other things, as well as my jobs and the things that I'm interested in. Those and my friends and my family, and that is my why. That is my pursuit of meaning in my life, to bring joy and happiness to others. If you don't know what yours is, that's okay. There's ways to do that. What people have is basically, to find meaning, you can do it through creating a work or doing a deed. You can do it by experiencing or encountering someone, or you can do it by the attitude that we take towards unavoidable suffering.
Mm-hmm. Man, and you know what's awesome? I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a side note right now.
No, I enjoy this. Go. I'm geeked, dude.
Do you remember last season, Nick, we were talking about David Goggins and how he preached there's power in pain, there's power in suffering. That is how you break through your limits. That is how you become a self-actualized person. So if you're trying to think, well, what is my meaning to live? I don't know what that is. In our previous episode, we gave you, ways to kind of find that out by process of elimination. But honestly, there's just one question that you have to ask, and it's why? Why am I here? Why is Zach here? What am I here to do? And most of us, as we grow older, we go searching for answers. And half the time, we never find them. We never find clarity. But it's in the pursuit of that is most important. And I ask myself constantly, especially during my meditations and stuff, why am I here? What do I believe in? What are my moral values and traits that distilled in me to make me who I am? And you'll go through thousands and thousands of hours of training. You can observe, you can do research, you can do whatever you want to do. But until you get to a point where you realize that life is your test, your decisions are your answers, you're going to get to a point where this isn't school anymore. These aren't tests where you can get a pass or fail. There are multiple ways, multiple answers to them. But are you doing the best that you can do? Are you bringing out your highest potential? And if you are, then upgrade yourself. Continue to upgrade yourself. And as soon as you change your energy or the attitude that you reflect during your situations, then guess what? Life's going to unfold its meaning to you. It's going to start chasing you instead of you chasing it. But
Y'all,
you got to
and
look, you got to listen, and you have to feel it. Go ahead, Nick.
and it's real interesting right now because, like, look at it the completely flip side. As whatever you find meaning in, whatever you think that you can't do something, at the end of the day, what you have to do is you like stop thinking so fucking big picture. Like,
Exactly.
take it back a notch. If you're trying to find meaning or trying to find these things that you want to do, become blah blah, or most, which I've seen friends, family, and loved ones like just not accomplish that. And all you have to do is stop thinking about the big picture. You don't got to go these fucking lofty goals because it takes time. You can't think about something that far ahead in the future and expect it to just happen. Like, here's another thing too, is this meaning is discovered in every moment. And in every moment, there's a seed of meaning that you can find. But that's up to you to find it. And you have to find this meaning as an individual. And to put it to point in society's terms, going against everything that we were ever taught, the things that you can't do this, you can't do that, things are wrong. I'm going to give you an example that Victor Frankl talked about. He calls it the chess example. And I'm going to paraphrase it just a little bit, okay? The meaning of life in general terms, is comparable to asking a chess champion, what is the best move to make in chess? There is no best answer for that question. It depends on the individual, the situation, and the other player. There's so much uncontrollable in there, but just like chess, to get to the end or to even try to accomplish or get where you want to go, you first have to make one move.
And sometimes, man, that's all it takes is one move.
Well, look at us.
One move could change your life.
Like, I mean,
One
I
thought
talked
could change your
to
life, you know.
I talked to George, and like, I mean, talk to a lot of people about they're very jealous of the situations I'm in. And I'm like, fucking start something. Take a fucking step. Like, don't
Listen.
and like,
If you guys don't take away anything, if you've just rattled on and missed all of this, if you take away one thing from today, find out why you're here. Find out why you're here. 2, choose your fucking attitude, because you have the power to do that. That is what people will remember the most about you. Are you an optimist? You're a pessimist. Do you see the cup as half full or half empty? And if you can choose your attitude, and some people don't believe this, that you have any control at all, you do. You have control. You have power. I promise you. Tell these circumstances, whatever it is, you know, whether you're poor, you're rich, you're fat, you're skinny, you're sad, you're depressed, you're happy 24/7, whatever it is, tell these circumstances, you're going to add fuel to my fire. You're not going to take away from it. And look back at yourself. And those things that are outside of your control, let them go. Let them all go. Be the best you that you can be. And that's it. If you're doing the best that you possibly can with what you have, you're already successful, guys. And that's what the DOORS is about. That's what Frankl was teaching, that there's a reinventing of success, a reinventing of happiness. And it's up to you to make that. It's not up to Zach. It's not up to Nick. It's up to you.
Hands down. And y'all, like, again, Zach's talking some real big picture stuff right here, because he wants you guys to accomplish these things. He wants you guys to be happy, healthy, moving in directions you want to be moving. And that's why like we're both very passionate about it. You can tell. But at the end of the day, like, finding those things sometimes takes a long time. Sometimes it takes a lot of time and effort. Sometimes you're going to have people judging you along the way. Sometimes all these things are going to happen. What you have to do is persist, because at the end of the day, you're the only one who can find meaning in your life. And I'm going to leave you with this. I wrote this down as a random. I was just sitting around last night, dude. Just I don't know. I was about to play video games with my buddy, and I sat there and I was thinking about getting on my ideas out of my head. And I was talking to my buddies about some of the things that he wants to accomplish and how he feels pretty hopeless about it. And I was thinking about how I could help him figure out what he wants to do and how he can get there. And I wrote this down. One step in any direction is one step towards something you weren't before. So fuck it. Take an inch and let's all go conquer the world. Y'all, we're the developers of our own opportunities, reinventing success. It's time to find your why.